Hello, I'm Andrew Tsao. In this episode of Backstory, we're going to see a trailer for Dominica, Charting a Future for Paradise. This documentary takes us on a journey of discovery that spans several decades and countries. The film captures the culture of a people, breathtaking island scenes, and the nostalgia of those who have stayed abroad for too long. And with us today is the filmmaker, Wyatt Bardouille. Wyatt, thanks for being here on Backstory.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Welcome. So this film is about a place that's pretty, well, geographically pretty far from Seattle, Washington.
About 4,000 miles.
Yeah. We hear a lot about countries in the Caribbean like Haiti and such in the news, but we don't hear a lot about Dominica. What is your connection to the island, and tell us how this film came to be?
Well, I have deep roots from Dominica. My mother is from there originally, and you know, I go back there almost every year.
Okay.
And have been doing so for as long as I can remember. Spent time there as a kid, going to school, and you know, I love the country.
Yeah.
It's my second home. And I think what spurred this story was the idea that it's such a beautiful place, such a unique place with unique people, but very little known, as you said. And I wanted to tell a story about it. And so in 2008, when Dominica was celebrating its anniversary of independence.
The 30th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also had a nationwide reunion. There are a lot of people, there are about 70,000 people in Dominica, and probably as many people are living abroad. And so the government asked people from all over the world to come back to the island over the course of a year, actually.
Yes.
And celebrate independence and kind of reflect on where the country has been and where they think the country's going.
Okay.
And so that was an opportunity.
So there were a lot of events, conferences, meetings and such to talk about this. And so because you have a personal family background, it made sense to do the film. What about your own journey to filmmaking itself? And that's something we sort of have to connect the dots to as far as this story goes.
Well, yeah, filmmaking is new for me. This is my first documentary.
Fantastic.
First big project. I started out in the tech world.
Yeah.
I came to Seattle to work at Microsoft many years ago, and also at Expedia, and then decided in 2004 that I no longer wanted to do that. I wanted to pursue my first love, which was performing arts and acting. And then decided to kind of focus behind the camera. So I went to film school for a year, and after film school in 2006, I did a web series, a lifestyle talk show for a couple of years, and then that brought me to about 2008, where I had the opportunity to do the film about Dominica.
So when you started to think about the structure of the piece or strategies to go about making the film, what was that process like? I mean, you know, one is about to go down there, and of course you're thinking, I want to capture the event. It's a historic event, this 30th anniversary. They don't come along very often, but still you have to have some form, structure, or shape of what you're trying to do there. I'm curious as a documentary filmmaker what those might be.
So initially, my initial idea was to go and have this film be about my point of view. I wanted to go and kind of reconnect with my own roots.
Yes.
Having been there for going there for many years, I felt like I had a connection, but I wanted to get a deeper connection, and I thought I could do that through making a film.
Okay.
The problem was that, you know, your best laid plans never work out. So a few weeks before I was supposed to go do this film in October, I found out I was pregnant with my first child and could not travel. The doctor was like, no, you're not leaving. You're not going 4,000 miles across the world to do anything. You're going to stay here.
But yet there's only one 30th anniversary.
Exactly. So I had to think about whether I was going to can this or not.
Right.
And I enlisted my family members, my mother, Dr. Wyatt Bardouille, and my sister, Dos Bardouille, to help me make this film. And so they're producers on this film.
Great.
And it became very much a family affair. And then the dynamic of the film changed. It was no longer just, you know, a film
Your
about
story.
Yeah, my story. It was a story about Dominica.
Yeah.
Dominica was the main character for the movie.
And the people that you interview, you talk to, our audience is going to see you talking to some serious players in the history of the country. Are these people you had to go build the relationships with? Was your family able to call on other relationships to make that happen? How did you get people to open up like that about the country's history?
Well, because my family is from there originally, my mother actually 2 years prior had been the president of Dominica State College, and so she had a lot of networks already in place.
And there's trust there.
There is trust there,
Yeah.
yeah. So she was able to access people that probably, if I had just gone on my own,
Yeah.
not knowing, it would have been much more difficult for me to access those people. And so she was the, you know, the producer, the fixer, the producer on the ground that was able to say, okay, go and talk to this government official, and I can open those doors for you.
I mean, you know, we do show quite a number of documentaries on this show, and it's a question I always ask because it fascinates me most, is this idea that in the making of a documentary, the process of trust building and the process of putting oneself in the lives of the people you're documenting is crucial. I mean, you can't really get at the heart of anything serious in a film unless you have that. So you already have that built in and you're able to have access. But also you have as you say, you were going to make a film that was your point of view. And I have to say, as I was thinking about the film, the other day, your love for the country in its natural beauty, in its people, in its culture, comes across, and particularly in the way the film is shot. So, I mean, you know, I was talking to you before the show and just saying, wow, talk about your HD cinematography. It's not just about the HD cinematography, but it's sort of the sense of care and the how the lushness and vibrancy of the country comes to life. Can you talk to us a little bit about the process and the visuals of this?
Sure. You know, I wanted to portray, yes, like you said, my love for this country. It's I think one person said that this film is like a love song to Dominica, and that's kind of how I view it. So I wanted there to be just the true essence of the country by not only just the beauty, the grandeur of the beauty of the place, but also the culture, the music, and how people talk and what they're interested in. So in order to represent that, I had to think about, okay, you know, kind of my own vision in my own head, what did that look like?
Right.
And pull that, you know, pull it out.
Yeah.
And so I made sure that I had a team of people that could help me do that.
Okay.
Besides my fantastic producers, I had a great director of photography, a great cinematographer who also happens to be behind the camera filming us today, Michael Welty.
I think Michael's actually on your camera.
Yes, he is. Hello,
over
Michael.
here. So that's just wonderful that you brought people from Seattle to make this happen down there.
Yes, and I should also add my sister is an alum of UW. She did her graduate studies here. Yes, yeah.
So the Seattle Dominica connection is
very strong.
Is very strong there.
So,
now, before we watch the film, I'm just curious. This is probably on our show one of the few times our Seattle audiences are going to get to see a country like this. What about the way the film was received there when it was first made?
Well, so I think one fine line that we walked making this film was, okay, how do we, you know, we want to portray some of the challenges that Dominica has as well. We want to tell, in fact, what's really going on.
That there are struggles, that there's still this sense of, like, you know, who are we as a nation, what's our economy based on, and all of that.
Right, exactly. And but we wanted to do it carefully. We didn't want to offend, in a sense, and we wanted to kind of be circumspect in how we wanted to present both sides of a story, you know, both the positive and the negative. So I was a little apprehensive about, you know, what people would say actually seeing it, because it's about this country. But the people loved it. It was received very well. One of the things that amazed me in watching the people watch this film, you know, the Dominican people and even students, was the fact that I think sometimes people take for granted their surroundings. And when they saw their beautiful island represented in film, and it's kind of a different, you know, they're looking at it through a different lens, if you will, they were just overjoyed. They realized, like, wow, we live in this gorgeous place. And I think that's one of the reasons I made this film, was to kind of educate people about Dominica, but then also let Dominicans know that they have this very special place, this very special gem that they need to care for. And so I think that in a sense happened, that people were like, they've started to realize, like, wow, I really need to kind of focus on making sure that we preserve this place as we move forward.
Fantastic. Now here's a look at the trailer for Dominica, Charting a Future for Paradise.
reunion, I think, is a very good reason for us to have a good party. And there's nothing wrong with that. Although there are some people who say that we fet a lot, we party too much, and that we don't pay attention to serious things, but this year, we did pay attention to serious things.
Reunion is a time for reflection about nation building, about us as a nation, what have we achieved, what can we do better, how do we chart the future in a very difficult world as an independent nation.
For any country to acquire wealth, you must produce either goods or services. And so we have to find that marketable item, either in goods that we manufacture or in services that we provide, that can cause us to become viable on a world stage.
Well, the fact is that anything we can produce in trade, in agriculture, as a small tropical island, anything we can produce, somebody else can produce bigger, better, faster, cheaper. It is almost a waste of time to try to say that you are going to produce something in Dominica and compete with it on the international market.
We don't fit the typical Caribbean tourist island ringed by white sand beaches. And those tourists and investors who went knock on the doors of our neighboring islands, this is not what they're looking for.
It would be a paradox if we, in trying to develop the country, we are destroying the very thing that we should be trying to preserve and promote.
Nobody can build it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. We can get from here, from there, everywhere. But if we don't do anything, we will not have a Dominica.
So Wyatt, in the film, they talk a little bit about the population of the island at about 70,000, but unemployment is high, yet it's a stable democracy with universal education. So you have a background there, and then you made this film on the 30th anniversary, and there was a lot of talk about the future. What's your take on the future of Dominica?
That's a very tough question. Yeah, I talk about that with my other, my family and my producers and other people, and I've asked that question. I've posed the question to other Dominicans that are, that have investment in Dominica's future, and I guess the general idea, at least in my opinion, is still that Dominica, it still has great challenges. I mean, if you think about it, right now they're really investing in infrastructure, roads, seawalls, making sure that things are looking great for when they have tourists coming through. But at any year, a hurricane can come and wipe it all out.
And we see that. We just saw that in the film. Yeah.
And this is a yearly occurrence, that this possibility. And so, in my mind, it's a tough situation. However, I believe that the people, because they're so passionate about their country, and even with the issues of like nature and political issues, or even the economical situation that they're in with reliance on foreign aid, that they can do it. They can make a way for themselves in which they're self-sufficient and sustainable. And as a matter of fact, right now there is a big, even a heavier investment in geothermal energy development. And if they can walk the line on that and make sure they have the checks and balances for environmental impact, I think that they can, that will be a boon to their economic situation, and so they won't be so reliant.
It certainly, from the film, appears like the leadership's fully aware of this, and they're willing to tackle it. This film, we were just chatting a little bit before in the green room before the show. We were just talking about the world we live in now of documentaries, audiences, the internet, independent releasing, distribution. I mean, this was your first big project in that way. What have you learned about getting audiences? What that world, that's a label everyone uses, independent. What does that mean as an independent film producer? Explain.
For me, I think what it means and what I've learned is that you really have to, filmmakers are considered artists, I think. But as an independent artist or an independent filmmaker, you really have to also have a sense, you have to wear a business hat. You have to think about if I want my film to be seen,
Yeah.
who do I want to see? Who do I want to see it? It's not going to be, I think sometimes people have grandiose ideas about going out and saying, my film is going to be at Cannes,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
My little independent film
Yeah.
that really no one,
Right.
not a lot of people are very interested in. But what I realized is that I need to figure out who those people are that would be interested in seeing my film and seek them out and go specifically to those locations or those organizations that are interested. And that will be my success, because
Okay.
if I'm approaching, you know, let's say festivals, for
Yeah.
instance, that are big, where they say they have independent film productions, but it's really the studios that have their independent film houses
Right.
with big names. You know,
Right.
I can't compete
Of
on
course.
that level.
Of course.
And so wearing a business hat is something that I've learned that I have to do as a filmmaker if I want to get my film out.
And this film did very well. It's award-winning, and it was very, very well received. So obviously you
yes.
did find an audience for it. I mean, I'm curious because your background in the software business leads me to talk a little bit about the new portals that are out there. I mean, I can't even catch up anymore with the amount of new ways in which storytelling, media, transmedia are becoming available to the next generation. I mean, from your unique background now as a software manager, project manager, and filmmaker, what's your take on what's going on out there?
You know, I'm with you. I can't keep up either. It's an amazing time, I think, to be in this business, to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
If you're innovative and you can take technology and take the art of filmmaking and put them together, you can create some magnificent things. I mean, I recently read and heard about kind of, you know, digital storytelling, or the way in which filmmakers are telling stories now, where the audience is like an interactive participant in the story, and they get to decide how long they stay in a scene and when they move forward, or they can even go backward, and it's in a story, and it's just, you know, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I think it's kind of it opens up a whole new world of storytelling. And at the same time, I think that then filmmakers have to start thinking about, they have to be a little bit more technical, you know, not just the aspects of, you know, how to frame a shot.
Yeah.
They have to know about the platforms that they're going to be presenting their stories on, and understand the back end. And some people are even suggesting that they have to be developers on some level. You know, they have to know how to write code.
Well, that's an interesting notion, because, I mean, we all know the popularity of social media, and when I say social media, specifically social media apps like Vine, and now Instagram is offering people a chance to make their own videos. So for someone who's making content on the other side of it, keeping pace with the way people are going to want to receive that content is a major issue. I mean, do you foresee anything? I mean, you know, look, what did we have in the last 10, 15 years? YouTube and Vimeo, which were the major distribution platforms, right? And then in Seattle, as I've told our audiences before, we have IndieFlix, who distributes independent films like Netflix. Can you foresee anything on the horizon that we haven't thought of yet?
You know, I haven't really thought that deeply about it, but I'm sure there are people that are thinking about things all the time. You know, about how they can make you know, content kind of just out there for everyone to consume on every platform. So I think, you know, I'm sure somebody's coming up with some interesting combination as we speak.
It's vast.
It's vast, and I think that the possibilities are endless.
Okay, so now that you talked a little bit about, as you say, wearing a couple of hats, filmmaker and your own distribution company, what's next for you in that regard? Talk a little bit about what's coming up for you and how that material fits into what you said about your plan for where it'll go.
Well, I love the documentary form.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the process. I'm in development right now with. I'm looking at a documentary subject, which is kind of a social or human behavior element that has an element of that to it. And then I'm also looking at a narrative project as well.
Okay.
And right now they're both kind of in parallel. I'm doing research on both of them to see which one is going to move forward.
Now, are these projects that will also be tied to the local community?
The local Seattle community,
Yeah.
I think yes. Well, actually, funnily enough, the narrative project is based. The story is based in Sweden.
Okay.
However, I think I've been thinking about how I could probably do it in Seattle and make it, because Sweden and Seattle have some similarities.
Well, yeah.
So-
Ballard anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that possibility. But you know, I have a team of people here that in Seattle that I work with, that I've worked with
Yeah.
on this last film that I think I would move forward with.
Great.
In my next project. So at the very least, there will be involvement from the people in Seattle.
That could be a coded message to our friend Mike back here.
Yes,
You could be
behind the
being
camera.
pitched to get onto another project. So we'll see
Certainly.
about that. And about the documentary, can you give us any glimpse into what that might be?
Unfortunately, I can't give much. I need to keep it under wraps for now.
Right,
But
right.
you know, I think as a filmmaker, I'm drawn to kind of social relations or cultural relations, and a little bit of obscurity, like things that people maybe don't focus on a regular, or most people don't focus on a regular basis. So it kind of, that's as much as I can tell you about what the subject matter of this documentary would be about.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing what you have next and having you back on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wyatt, for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely great. And I have to just figure out when I can schedule my vacation to Dominica, right? Because it's just, I fell in love with the place.
I'm glad to hear that.
And thank you for watching Backstory. I'm Andrew Tsao, and I will see you again behind the scenes.